when the pilot tried to return to the airport. The plane crashed about a mile south of the field. 2 people were killed and 2 others seriously injured. The survivors, the parents of 5 children, are said to be in fair condition tonight. NTSB officials tell us there was no bad weather at the time of the crash.
2 people died and 2 more were seriously hurt when their small plane crashed in Prescott today.
Investigators think yesterday's winter storm may have played a part in this accident. The Cessna 182 did not get very far off the runway before the pilot tried returning to Prescott's Love Field Airport. Witnesses describe what happened.
I saw it take off. It just didn't look like it was climbing. Headed for the end of the runway, towards the end of the runway by the tree line. It pulled up real sharp and then just kind of rolled all the way around the corner.
Flipped upside down.
Yeah. It was just kind of a slow roll, like they were trying to turn back towards the runway.
2 passengers died at the scene. 2 others were rushed to Phoenix hospitals with serious burn injuries. Investigators say weather was clear when the plane crashed, but witnesses say there did appear to be snow on the wings of that plane.
How's the accident?
Meantime, we're finding out more about one of the 2 people who died in the crash. Phil Larsen, a well-known developer, died when his Cessna went down after takeoff from Ernest Love Field in Prescott. Witnesses say he attempted to turn the plane around and land, but wasn't able to make it more than 50 feet in the air. Another passenger was also killed, but that person's name has not been released. 2 passengers survived.
The 2 victims that were rescued and taken out, from my understanding, were conscious when they left.
Now, this is video of one of the passengers arriving at the hospital. Both survivors have severe burns. The victims were planning to fly to Rocky Point. They wanted to look at some property possibly to develop.
Steven and Shellie recovering tonight. Their families and doctors all say this is a miracle. Just before the crash, the pilot, Philip Larsen, reported engine trouble to the tower and said he was attempting to return to the airport. The plane crashed just a mile southwest of the airport, and the Snow's family says rescue workers saved the husband and wife. It is the remains of what used to be a small plane, carrying 4 very good friends. Looking at the wreckage, it's really hard to believe that anybody could have survived.
They just feel like it's a miracle that they're alive. And he used that word. He said it's a miracle that we're alive.
The thoughts of Stephen Snow, described by his mother and father, Brent and Arlene Snow. The 2 talked with us outside the Maricopa Medical Center, where Steven is recovering, along with his wife, Shellie.
He remembers taking off and starting to bank, and that's the last they remember.
The 2 seen here with their 5 children suffered burns and fractures in the crash. Doctors say minor injuries for someone who's been through a plane crash.
The 2 survivors were man and wife that have 5 children, and we're just so grateful to that. They're going to be here to raise those kids.
The 2 were in the back seat of the plane, wearing their seatbelts when the plane went down. Shellie's father, Jerry White, says the family owes their lives to the rescue workers.
And in spite of the fire and trying to get people out of the back seats of an airplane is not easy. They had to be unbuckled, I'm sure, and pulled out, and that, to me, is what saved their lives.
There is a long road ahead for the Snows. Doctors say it'll be at least a month before either one is released from the hospital. But the family says both Shellie and Steven are in good spirits, knowing they are rare survivors of a plane crash.
But we're feeling very confident that the Lord's going to bless them and they're going to be okay. We've seen miracles happen before, and we're pretty sure this is going to be a miracle.
And yet another story of survival. The Snows were heading to Mexico on a business trip, looking at an opportunity to expand their real estate business. The Snows do not have insurance, and the family has set up a fund at the Bank of America in the name of Steven and Shellie Snow. Now, of course, coming up tonight at 10, we're going to hear more about the family, and we're going to also tell you about the pilot, Philip Larsen. He's a well-known businessman in Prescott, and he will be missed by many.
Yeah, I'll bet. And really amazing that those 2 survived that crash.
Very rare that 2 and a wife and husband would survive.
Yeah, Scott Wasserman, thank you very much.
Bryce. Boyce's 26-year-old son, Lincoln, was also killed in that plane crash.
They were headed to Mexico to check on, we have some condominium developments there and homes as well. So they were headed down to check on that business.
Lincoln Bryce owned a landscaping company and was married just this past April.
Happy, very happy. Since he was a little boy, he continually cheerful.
Friends say they both worked very hard.
Better, bigger, faster, more was kind of typical of both of them.
And for Phil, piloting his own plane to his different developments was the norm.
He had projects in Bullhead and in Xolo in Mexico, and he would fly to all those quite regularly.
He's an excellent pilot. I've flown with him many times, and don't know exactly yet what the problems were, but I know if there was something he could have done to correct it, he would have. And just was their time to go.
Amy Johnston, 12 News.
Well, as expected, Larson and Bryce's deaths come especially hard to the other passengers on board.
Their co-workers, Steven and Shellie Snow, beat the odds and survived the crash. Judy Alley has their story from Maricopa Medical Center. Judy?
Lynn Sue, doctors here are truly amazed at how well both of the Snows are recovering. Now, we're told that that plane took at least a 5-story drop before it crashed. And doctors here say that kind of an impact is almost impossible to survive.
Pleasantly surprised, pleasantly shocked is a better term.
Dr. Kevin Foster calls Steven and Shellie Snow's recovery remarkable so far.
It's unusual to have people survive plane crashes, even light plane crashes, and certainly to survive with relatively minor injuries is a miracle for two people.
Dr. Foster says Shellie has a slight cerebral contusion, a couple of small facial fractures, and burns over 25% of her body.
We anticipate that she's going to require a couple of surgeries for skin grafting. She may require a surgery to fix her facial fracture, but we have every expectation that she's going to do just fine.
41-year-old Steven Snow also expected to do just fine, suffering facial fractures and a deep burn to the lower body. Family members say both so tough and strong, they were even feisty during the rescue from the crash.
Steven was saying that he was okay and that he didn't need any painkiller, and that he was fine, and Shellie was directing the AirVac medical people to take care of her children.
And her children will be seeing mom soon. Shellie expected to stay in the hospital 1 month. Steven could be released in 3 weeks. In Phoenix, Judy Alley, 12 News.
Coming up, imagine spending nearly $100,000.
Plane. He died along with another man, Bryce. The small Cessna crashed just after takeoff yesterday. Shellie and Steven Snow were also on board. They were pulled from the burning wreckage and flown to the hospital with serious burns. Shellie's father saw her for the first time last night.
She was totally covered with gauze and like a mummy. Just, you know, the only thing we could see were slits, and so it was very distressing to see your daughter laying there like that. I feel that Shellie and Steven, with their 5 children, still had a mission to accomplish here on the earth.
And Shellie's father there knew Philip Larsen, the pilot, very well and says he was extremely cautious. Investigators don't know what caused that plane to crash.